On December 26, 2004, at 01:07 UTC, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center received a seismic signal from stations in Australia due to an undersea earthquake that had occurred at 0:58 in the Indian Ocean, about 160 kilometers off the western coast of Sumatra. The PTWC immediately released information about the incident, stating that there was no tsunami threat to countries bordering the Pacific Ocean. Only 9 minutes later, an unusually high wave approached the coast of northwestern Indonesia. Until that moment, no one knew what devastating destruction they had to expect, leaving the people living along the coast no time to evacuate. At 01:23, a destructive wave of a height of up to 9 meters hit the coast and reached as far as 4 kilometers inland. In deeper waters, the tsunami was traveling at a speed of up to 1,000 kilometers an hour, reaching the coasts of Thailand and Sri Lanka after 90 minutes. Due to the enormous forces, the waves caused massive damage and a total of over 229,000 casualties in 11 countries, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters in history. Hello and welcome to the National Geographic Channel. Today, myself, Mary-Louise Brinding-O'Reilly, and Miriam Leinfelder will guide you through a special of
Tsunami, the killer waves.
Now, I will start off and tell you a little bit about the genesis of a tsunami. A tsunami is a series of water waves that is caused when a large body of water is suddenly displaced. This is most commonly caused by an earthquake, but can also happen through volcanic eruptions, landslides, underwater explosions, and meteorite impacts. Earthquakes cause tsunamis by causing a disturbance of the seafloor. So, earthquakes that occur along coastlines or anywhere beneath the oceans can generate tsunamis. The size of a tsunami is normally in relation to the size of the earthquake, meaning larger tsunamis are caused by larger earthquakes. Plate tectonics also play an important role. Most submarine earthquakes are caused along oceanic trenches by the subduction of one plate by another at a convergent boundary. Since the Pacific Ocean is surrounded by plate boundaries of this type, 79% of all tsunamis occur there.
So, Mary-Louise, don't tsunamis always have special characteristics that always apply for these killer waves? Can you tell us something about that?
I can, yeah. Now, while normal waves that are caused by the wind have a wavelength of about 100 meters, a tsunami in the deep ocean has a wavelength of about 200 kilometers. A tsunami wave only has an amplitude, meaning the wave height, of 1 meter though. Therefore, tsunamis are difficult to detect over deep water and often go unnoticed by ships. In the open sea, the wave travels at well over 800 kilometers an hour, which equates the cruising speed of an airplane. This means tsunamis can travel whole oceans in a matter of hours and spread out up to 20,000 kilometers. As soon as the tsunami approaches the coast and the water becomes shallower, the wave is compressed and loses speed, now only traveling below 80 kilometers an hour. The wavelength diminishes to 20 kilometers and its amplitude grows enormously, producing a clearly visible wave. Since the wave still has a length of a few kilometers, it may take up to several minutes until the wave comes to its full height and crashes down. Now that we know a little bit about the genesis and the characteristics of a tsunami, we will try and relate this to the tsunami of 2004. Now, the earthquake that generated the Great Indian Ocean Tsunami of 2004 is estimated to have released the energy of 23,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs, according to the US Geological Survey. Giant forces that had been building up deep in the earth for hundreds of years were released on December 26th, shaking the ground violently and unleashing a series of killer waves that sped across the Indian Ocean at the speed of a jetliner. This earthquake, with a magnitude of 9.2 on the Richter scale and a duration of about 10 minutes, is the second largest earthquake ever recorded on a seismograph and was caused by the movement of the Indian-Australian plate, which moves by 6 to 7 centimeters towards the northeast every year.
Tsunamis occur most frequently in the Pacific, particularly along the Pacific Ring of Fire.
And it burns, burns, burns. the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
This zone is found at the northern edge of the Pacific Plate and refers to the geologically most active fields of the Earth. Several times a year, strong earthquakes of at least 7 on the Richter scale result in tsunamis. Japan, for example, is hit by a tsunami at least once a year. From observations of scientists and historical sources, we know today that tsunamis can occur in all larger seas of the world. Thus, fatal tsunamis occur in geologically less active oceans such as the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, or the Mediterranean as well. Great danger exists in densely populated areas or in vacation areas in which a tsunami can endanger millions of human lives. Tsunamis aren't a new phenomenon. They have been happening as long as plates have been moving. Although there are tsunamis happening every year, only few have a huge impact on nature and humanity. Apart from the tsunami in 2004, there have been 2 other strong tsunamis in the last few centuries, which I will tell you now briefly about. On the 1st of November 1755, an earthquake and tsunami rolled over Lisbon, which caused almost total destruction. Geologists today estimate the Lisbon earthquake approached magnitude 9 on the Richter scale with an epicenter in the Atlantic Ocean about 200 kilometers west-southwest of Cape St. Vincent. Estimates place the death toll in Lisbon between 10 and 100,000 people, making it one of the most destructive tsunamis in history. Due to an earthquake and the following tsunami on the 2nd of December 1908, the city of Messina in Italy was almost completely destroyed. More than 75,000 people were killed.
Now, Miriam, looking at all of this, we should not forget the consequences. So can you tell us something about the natural consequences, like what happened to the coral reefs, for example?
Coral reefs have been considered as nature's defense, and areas in which reefs were largely intact, such as the Syrian island chain off Thailand's west coast, survived better than areas without. Mangroves are an important natural barrier as well as a profitable timber resource. Areas in Pichavaman and Muchupit in the state of Tamil Nadu in India, with dense mangroves, suffered few human casualties and less damage to property compared to areas without mangroves. On Penang Island, the worst affected area in Malaysia, representatives of the Penang Inshore Fishermen Association observed that in areas where the mangrove forests were intact, there was reduced property damage and less impact on the coast.
Now, after the natural consequences, we will show you a little video clip concerning the economical consequences.
The tsunami had economy-wide effects. The impact of damage to productive sectors such as fishing and tourism were devastating. As many hit countries have a very fragile economy and are short of resources and capital required to build up the shattered coastlines, the economic effect is great. However, in some countries, the economic catastrophe was not that great as primarily fishermen and simple farmers were affected. They do not contribute majorly to the country's economy. Nevertheless, the individual loss and effects are huge. Lots of humanitarian aid was needed because of widespread damage of the infrastructure, shortages of food and water, and economic damage. Epidemics were of special concern due to the high population density and tropical climate of the affected areas. The main job of humanitarian and government agencies was to provide sanitation facilities and fresh drinking water to stop the spread of diseases. People feared the death toll could increase as disease and hunger spread. However, because of the quick response of help organizations, this was minimized. In the days following the tsunami, bodies were quickly buried in fear of disease. Nations all over the world provided over $7 million in aid for damaged regions. As most economic damage has been reconciled for, psychological damages and traumas are still difficult to overcome. We'll be back after a short commercial break.